This is Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel. The Owens Community College Campus Big Read is taking place now and throughout the semester, with the goal of bringing awareness of different perspectives through books. The Campus Read book is A Little Less Broken, How an Autism Diagnosis Finally Made Me Whole by Marian Schembari. It's the story of one woman's decades-long journey to a diagnosis of autism and the barriers that keep too many neurodivergent people from knowing their true selves. Now, sharing passages, topics, and events related to the book are Director of Library Services, Jane Berger, and Professor of English, Jen Hazel.
Welcome to Let's Talk Big. I'm Jen Hazel. My co-host is Jane Berger, and we have with us today James Zeller, Coordinator of Student Life. Welcome, James.
Thank you both.
Hey there. Thanks for coming. I know you're busy. It's not easy.
It's a busy semester.
I know.
Right?
I know.
So, Jane, do you have a passage for us?
Always, always, always. And if you're following along, it's about middle of the book, 114. When I tell other disabled people about this period in my life, one word comes up more than any other: spoons. It sounds like you didn't have the spoons to socialize, and if you used up all your spoons at work, it makes sense that you wouldn't have had any left to deal with a cockroach showing up. Spoon theory was created by Christine Miserandino, a writer and advocate living with lupus. She came up with the metaphor while at a diner with a friend. Her friend asked what it was like living with a chronic illness, and on a whim, Christine grabbed all the spoons from their table and another and handed them to her friend. Most people wake up with an endless supply of spoons, she explained, but here, for this experiment, you have 12. She asked her friend to walk her through her day, and for each activity, Christine took away a spoon. Getting up and brushing your teeth costs a spoon. Showering costs a spoon. 2 spoons if you blow dry your hair and put makeup on. Making breakfast costs 2 spoons because you have to decide what to cook and then spend the time cooking it. When your spoons are gone, they are gone, Christine said.
So I think showering and doing your hair and putting makeup on is worth more than 2 spoons.
Well, doing your hair, yes. Not mine. But I found it interesting, as we were prepping for this podcast, that James had mentioned that he was familiar with the spoon theory, and were you? I mean, have you heard about it?
Yes, from other information, other books that I've read on disability, but she uses it really nicely here, and it fits in really well, especially if someone is unfamiliar with the
right, and that would be me. So I was the spoon theory. What the heck? And it makes perfect sense. And when your spoons are gone, what's left of you? You know, I mean, it's been quite the day already then.
Right.
So, what do you think? What does this? How does this speak to you? What do you think about this?
I think a lot of self-care here. And effective boundary setting is a form of self-care. I think a lot of individuals, myself included, were raised with the expectation that saying no is a fault. Saying no is a failure on my part in some way. And so I think we all have this idyllic sense of we can always say yes and we can be anything and everything to somebody else. And that's just not the reality. And I think once we let go of that unrealistic expectation for ourselves, we can actually take an inventory of how many spoons do we have and start addressing the question of how do I get more spoons, or how do I start to recharge?
Yep. Hang on to the ones I have.
Exactly.
I like the recharge thought, like how do I recharge my spoons?
Yep.
And I think the other thing to really consider here too is that some days things take, and I made a little joke at the beginning, but sometimes some things take more spoons than they do on other days.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something we don't always consider. And maybe even different points and periods in our life if certain things are going on. Like it could take a whole lot of spoons for something, and other times maybe when we're more rested and we don't have other things going on, it takes less spoons.
I was just going to say that. I think it depends too on how we are, where we are in our own, mental capacity. Have we had a lot of stressors? Have we been working more, staying up longer, just a lot more on our plate, had to go with the spoon plate, that we run out of the spoons a little bit earlier than what we hoped. Yeah. And every decision that you make, if it doesn't matter if you have, if you're neurotypical or not, we all have decisions that we have to make throughout the day. So some of them, as you said, are just harder to make than others on any given day. And then if you add in being a neurodiverse individual, that I feel like you should have extra spoons just to start out.
If only it were that easy.
I know.
Sometimes the day that we're expecting isn't necessarily the day we're having. Sometimes
Right.
there's a random encounter or some kind of unforeseen circumstance that takes more spoons than we were willing to allocate, and so now we're in the red for the rest of the day.
Right.
And that just
And
compounds.
that brings up something that I was actually talking to some of my staff and student workers about today and yesterday, that sometimes by the time people get to the library at the end of their day, we don't know what they've been through already. They've, class, work, maybe parenting, who knows? But sometimes whatever didn't go well in their day comes out when they ask for something and they're a little bit, brusque or short, or they're just out and out rude. And so rather than let that get your hackles up as someone sitting behind that desk providing customer service, my line is, and this is what I've been trying to kind of share with everybody on my staff, is that I can't help you with that, but how can I make your day get better from here? What can I do to make this day better? And anybody who's come into the library knows we have a big jar of mints, and so if all else fails, take some mints.
Well, and they're the good kind. They're like the buttermilk
I
kind.
know, they melt in your mouth.
Yeah.
But just letting them vent sometimes allows people, I think, to be able to hold on to a spoon that they were probably ready to throw
Absolutely.
at somebody.
And
Our reaction, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
You're fine,
interrupt, but I
you're
say our reactions, I think, to how we deal with somebody who may be having a day or a moment or just struggling every day really can shape how they receive us.
Yeah, I think the other thing that's really good about this is I think it makes it really clear to someone who doesn't have a disability. And I think it's important, though, to understand that individuals who have autism or who are neurodivergent don't see that as a disability. But it does give a good explanation on how sometimes things are a lot harder when you don't start the playing field in the same way as everyone who may not have a quote-unquote disability. And so I think that is really, it gives a great example. And what's interesting is it was just a conversation between friends to say this, and then look at where that has been. It's been put in zillions of books. Well, zillion might be a little lot, but a lot of other books have quoted this idea because it is so easy to then understand.
Right.
Yes, like here is that explanation. Here is what, so you can kind of understand like what someone who has to worry about certain things that others don't deal with. Like, even if we translated this to not saying someone who was neurodivergent, but we said someone who needed assistance from a walker or a wheelchair, like they have to plan out things that we would never have to plan out.
Yeah, we don't give a second thought to certain things.
Right, as not using those. Like, do they have a curb? Can I get up and down? Is there an elevator? Like those things that we, in some ways, take for granted. And maybe not even is there one. Where is it?
Right, and does it work?
Yes.
Do those buttons to let me in the door, work fully? Will they give me enough time? I mean, if you don't have the strength to, maybe if you don't have an automatic wheelchair to roll yourself quickly enough, because some of them close a little bit quicker than others.
Right.
So.
And I think we can expand this out to identity in general, even with social and racial constructs. Like, am I going to be welcomed here? Am I going to be interpreted the right way? Do I have to mask, in some way?
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
when we start seeing the language of spoons universally as energy, and we've all heard the phrase, I can't even.
Yes.
Anymore. We all
Yep.
get to that point. Some
Yep.
of us
Yep.
quicker than others.
Yep, well, and that's what she says right here. Many of us live decades blowing through our spoons by lunchtime and wondering why we are always so depleted. True.
Mhm.
And even this, while we were waiting to get started, we were having a conversation about email,
Right.
which fits in there, like, why do we feel,
Can we even?
right, like with email and stuff.
Yeah.
So, James, you do, with, activities on campus with students, and one of the things that you do is yoga.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about how that might be helpful to recharge.
Yeah. Yoga is, well, how long do we have, right? Yoga is a lot of things, and I think we have a very blanket definition for yoga, and so that leads to a lot of misassumptions about it. I see yoga as proto-cognitive behavioral therapy, essentially, where it looks at the mind, it looks at the body, it looks at the proprioception, right, the felt sense, all that, and it brings everything together. The actual meaning of yoga comes from the root union, urge,
Oh.
which is union. It's the same root that in Latin we have religare, which is religion, and so to join, to bind, to cleave to. In Hebrew you have devakut, which is to cleave. And so this sense of union, which first has to start with the idea that we are not in union, we are disassociated, we are dispersed, we are not whole in some way. And so are we talking about some kind of spiritual union of my individual self to a greater self? Certainly in some contexts. Are we talking about bringing the mind and the body and the emotions together in one place? Mindfulness, presence, certainly. A lot of different ways to really describe what that union is. But I see yoga as a practice, and it's mental, it's energetic, it's bodily and somatic as well. And so I see it as very holistic.
Does it take some time for you personally, and maybe just generally anyone who first starts practicing yoga, to be able to clear your mind? Because how many of us take the time in our day, middle of the day, end of the day, to just be able to clear it all out?
And I mean, this is fascinating, but we are going to have to wrap up, so I think what we will do is wrap up, and we're going to have to just have James back. So please listen to Let's Talk Big on Outcast, OCCR, Owens Community College Radio, or catch the podcast anytime on Outcom Plus YouTube channel. On behalf of our guests, James Zeller and Jane Berger, I'm Jen Hazel. Please keep talking big.
This has been Let's Talk Big. Catch Let's Talk Big anytime on the RSS feed or the Owens Outcom Plus YouTube channel. Be sure to like and subscribe. Join us again for Let's Talk Big, the big read with Jane Berger and Jen Hazel.